What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast, the only NFL podcast a year takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, joined by my great friends, Ty McGee and John Hammerly. In today's episode, we're doing our annual mock draft, our official mock draft for this year's NFL draft. Only 2 days away when you guys are getting this tomorrow morning or on Tuesday morning for you guys. We're really excited. The draft is going to be crazy. I mean, this is a really hard draft to predict this year. You know, like after maybe the first few picks, it really could go any which direction. And there's going to be trades. We're doing no trades in this mock draft because, you know, like you get into trades, you kind of have to predict picks, things like that. That's a little bit tougher. But if there's an NFL draft in the first round where there's no trades, that's what our mock draft is going to be. So on the clock are going to be the Browns. Hammer, we'll let you take the number one pick, or not the Browns, the Titans. Oh,
I was going to say, we're taking the Titans. We're just throwing them in.
Who do you got the Titans taking, Ham?
The QB from Miami. I forget his name.
Oh yeah, it's let's see. You know, PFF is kind of crazy because let's see, he's got him all the way down here at 20. And yeah, then you see ADP 2. I wonder why the ADP isn't 1. I wonder like kind of where they have him going, but yeah, that is a little bit wild. After that, you got the Browns on the clock. They could go a bunch of different directions. Ty, who do you got the Browns taking?
Yeah, I think this is pretty easy. Travis Hunter, they have the need at wide receiver and corner, and I think he'll step in right away and fill that for them. It seems like they're kind of going to wait on a quarterback or maybe try to go after Kirk Cousins. So Travis seems to make the most sense there for them.
Yeah, I think Travis is definitely the answer there. At number 3 with the Giants, I think I'm going to go with Abdul Carter. That's seemingly the direction they're going to go. But there are some rumors out there that they're still looking at Shedeur Sanders very strongly. We know recently they've kind of been researching all the different quarterbacks. It kind of seems like Joe Shane came in and was like, what the hell, you guys aren't looking at quarterbacks more? And so they got back into it a little bit. But we'll see what the Giants really do on draft night. But that's a really exciting pick because it kind of sets up the next few picks. Hammer, you're back on the clock for the Patriots. Who do they take at number 4?
Yeah, this is when the draft starts to get interesting. A lot of buzz that this could be a spot for Genty. I don't buy it, though. I don't believe it. I still think they're going to build up that O-line, protect Drake May. You know, Mike Vrabel wants to build up the defensive line. I have him going Will Campbell right here at 4. He's been the favorite all offseason, and I think it's going to, stay that way.
Yeah, I think that's probably the direction they go as well. Ty on the clock with the Jaguars. Who do the Jaguars take?
Yeah, this is another team that there's some buzz that maybe Genty's a guy here, maybe Ted McMillan, but there's also all this buzz that maybe Ted, takes a slide in this draft. So I think they stay away from receiver. You know, they got BTJ last year. They had Gabe Davis. I think they plug in the interior, the defensive line. They get Mason Graham. He's going to be a big body for them in between Trayvon Walker, who they just picked up his 5th-year option, and Josh Hines Allen. So, I think the defensive lineman from Michigan is the pick for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mason Graham is one of the guys that kind of got like a little bit like people just got tired of talking about him here towards as we get closer to the draft. And I still think he is really, really high on people's boards in the NFL. So I think Mason Graham is going to be a really solid player and a great pick for the Jaguars. At number 6, I got the Raiders taking Ashton Genty because I do think that running back is their biggest hole right now on the offensive side of the ball. I think if you get Ashton Genty, you can kind of give Geno Smith a little bit of less pressure on him in the passing game. And you can really rely on Ashton Genty if the passing game isn't working for whatever reason, because he will do absolutely whatever you need him. He put out a memo to all the NFL teams like, hey, I will do whatever it takes. I'm a running back that you saw what Saquon did. It's my turn now. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. I think Pete Carroll will love him in the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, every Pete Carroll offense ever dating back to, the USC days, they had a great running back, right? Reggie Bush and Lendell White. And then he gets into Seattle and they had Marshawn Lynch for quite some time. And then, they move on to the backs that they have nowadays. So, he was there for the beginning of Kenneth Walker's career. So running back just seems like, the way for Vegas to go, especially, they don't really have a back at all right now. So.
Yeah. And Pete Carroll loves his running back unless it's on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl. So we'll see. We'll see if that ever happens again in the future. At number 7, Hammer, the Jets are on the clock. Who do you got the Jets taking here?
I really want to go QB to spice this back up, but I'm not. I think they're gonna go Membu right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a very safe pick. He had an awesome combine offseason, and Ty sent the clip in a little early before we hopped on. Ian Rappaport saying facts. There will be 3 offensive tackles taken in the top 10, and I do believe that. So, and I think Membu is going to be the pick at 7 for me.
Yeah, I think that's they. I mean, they have a pressing need at right tackle, right? I just think
first year head coach can't go wrong here.
Got to protect Fields too. Got to protect Fields.
Yeah, especially with Fields there. You don't want him getting under pressure and getting a little bit rattled. Like I think that's kind of the right move for them. Ty, this is a really interesting pick here. At number 8, you got the Panthers, who can seemingly do absolutely anything. They have a bunch of needs on the team, a young roster that can still add a lot of young talent. What are your thoughts on the Panthers pick here?
Yeah, they were an ascending offense in the latter half of last year. So I think the focus here for them is going to be on the defensive side of the football. It just depends where, right? Because I think they have a lot of holes. This guy, there's been a lot of buzz around him. I'm not as high on him. I don't think a lot of us are as high on him. But Jalen Walker, there's been buzz about him as going as high as number 4. I think teams see him as more of an edge, even though he's listed as a linebacker here. And I think, Carolina will be the team to pull the trigger on maybe his upside and what he can bring to the Carolina Panthers. So I think Jalen Walker is the guy here.
I am very much, I would love that as a Saints fan. I do think Jalen Walker does have potential, but for some reason when I was scouting him and we were kind of doing all the different prospect stuff, he didn't wow me, if that makes sense. I think he's a solid player on all fronts right now. He is still pretty raw. They'll develop him, whatever. But I'd be all right with the Panthers taking him instead of the person I have him taken in my mock draft. But we'll talk about that in a little bit, kind of the differences here. At number 9, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock.
Let me and Ty do this one.
Yeah. Let's get a real.
Here. I want to hear what you guys say. Who do you guys think they take at number 9 in this situation with the board falling this way, and then we'll go to who I pick.
Yeah, I think me and Hammer are kind of on the same page here. I think if the board falls this way, it's probably going to be Shedeur. I don't think they would take Dart. Maybe Hammer thinks differently, but I think the way that everything's going, I think Shedeur is, that number 2 quarterback in a lot of people's eyes. And I think, the Saints, they're in need of a quarterback with Derek Carr, out for the season. We saw Rattler last year and he didn't look good. So for me, it would be Sanders.
Hammer, you do agree? You on the same page?
I think it's gonna be Dart. I do.
Wow, you switched up.
I know. I know.
Yeah,
I agree. It's
Dart.
But
yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think Dart is the person that they want at quarterback. We heard Schefter today come out and say the Saints are hot and heavy for Jackson Dart, and just that they really like him. They're possibly a team that might trade up early in the second round or late into the first round. But I do think that will be the pick. Their second pick for the team is going to be a quarterback. I think the first pick they go is best player available. And for them, I think the best player available is going to be Tyler Warren. And I know we talked about tight ends for a long time, and I didn't really see Tyler Warren as a number 1, an early first round pick. But to me, I think the way that Kellen Moore has talked about the offense that he envisions for the Saints and things like that, it really does seem like a guy like Tyler Warren, who could do whatever you possibly want, is a guy that Kellen Moore would want in his offense. And we've talked about Teteroa McMillan. I've had him picked to the Saints before. But it seems like you can kind of get the receivers. You can get talented receivers later in this draft class. You can't get a Tyler Warren later in this draft class. So for that reason, I got the Saints going Tyler Warren at number 9. Now, moving on to number 10, Hammer, your rival team, the team that you kind of want to see choke this pick a little bit, a team that you want to see do terrible and you want to laugh at this pick. But who realistically do you think the Bears will take at number 10?
Brady Cook.
You would love that. You would love that.
I think it's realistic too. No, yeah, I'm gonna go with the safe kind of obvious pick. I think it's be Kelvin Banks. They improved the offensive line this offseason, but I think Joe Tooney's pretty old. I think he's only got
Yeah.
1 year left too. So you get Kelvin Banks, who has got a lot of upside. He's kind of that next guy off the bench. If anyone goes down, he can play guard, he can play tackle, and when Tooney kind of retires or leaves the team next year, this guy could step up and fill that role.
Yeah, I agree. Ty, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I thought they were probably going to go more back here. I don't think tackle is as much of a need for them because they have Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. But I do see it as like that, obviously, next step up type of pick. I think, if they don't get, I think they'll go offense with Ben Johnson in town. But yeah, for me, it maybe would have been running back, but I don't mind the pick. I think, Thurney is getting older too, and he only has.
You like Hampton at 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little high for him, but I think they're in a position to take, best available like Jenks did with the Saints. But I think the Banks pick makes sense with Thuney. And I mean, listen, Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, it's not like they're all pro offensive tackles.
Yeah.
So,
make them compete, make them earn their job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could definitely see running back at 10. I was kind of debating it in my own mock draft, but I think they end up with the rumors I'm hearing right now. I think Kelvin Banks might be the way they're leaning. At number 11, Ty, the 49ers, another interesting pick. They can kind of go a few different directions here. What direction do you think they go?
Yeah, this is tough, right? Because I think they are an older team. They could fill in some needs on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, they lost some guys this year. I do think they stick on the offensive side of the ball. I think we get another tackle here. I think they take Josh Simmons. Trent Williams is 37, 38 years old. Colton McKivitz, on the right side, he hasn't really done much. And Simmons is the type of guy that, we've seen him be able to play the left and the right. So I think Josh Simmons would be the guy here. Got to protect Purdy too. So never bad to take offensive line. And listen, you can bump him into guard. You can bump McKivitz into guard. They have a couple different needs on the offensive line. So Simmons is the guy for me.
Yeah, Ham, this is your guy, Ham.
I like him a lot. I like him a lot. He's going to be weird. I don't know where he's going to fall in this draft. I could see him going end of first round, but I can't, I wouldn't be surprised if I see him going top 15 either. So, he's definitely a tricky one.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really solid pick for the Niners. I have him going defensive, but I do think they can kind of go they can kind of go a lot of different directions and still be in a solid spot for them. At number 12, I think this one is a little bit tough. You either go running back or receiver if I'm the Cowboys here. And in my opinion, I think the drop-off in running backs is a lot less than necessarily you could find receivers. I think you could find talented receivers still throughout this draft, but I think running backs, you're really possibly getting starters still in like really solid starters in the third round, fourth round. That's really possible here. But receiver, it's a little bit tough. And right now I'm seeing a lot of rumors about T-Mac being the guy for Jerry Jones in Jerry's world. So I'm going to go T-Mac here for the Cowboys. I think it's a solid pick. You partner him up, obviously, with CeeDee Lamb, and that is a really, really fun dynamic duo that could be down in Dallas for Dak. So I would love to see what T-Mac could do in Dallas. What do you guys think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? I think they need a big-bodied receiver, and they obviously need a wide receiver too. They've really struggled since Amari Cooper left. So, obviously, I'm not as high on him. I don't think a lot of us are as high on him, but he's the guy that's been talked about from 5 to 50 at this point, right? With the McShay, clip coming out the other day. So it's hard to predict where he's going to go, but you never know what Jerry Jones is going to do either. So I think it makes sense here.
Yeah. Another really interesting pick, in my opinion, is going to be 13, the Dolphins. Hammer. You're on the clock here for them. They're a team that really could go a bunch of different directions. So they're they could trade back, they could stick. What are your thoughts on them? Who do they pick here?
Yeah, this is a team that I kind of think could have their eyes on Kelvin Banks. If he falls a little bit, maybe they trade up 2-3 spots. A guy who could play guard, tackle. But with the board how it is right now, I have them taking Jahdae Barron, versatile DB. Can play outside corner, inside corner. Nickel and safety. They just lost Javon Holland, right? Yep, to the Giants. So I think they could use a playmaker in the back end who can play multiple positions.
And with the Jalen Ramsey, trade rumors now too.
And Jalen, yeah.
That position, the defensive back position is just a huge need for them.
Yeah, no, I think that would definitely be a solid pick for them at 13. At number 14, Ty, you got the Colts on the clock here. What are your thoughts for them?
Yeah, you put me in a tough position here with Tyler Warren out, but I think this is a team that really needs a tight end.
Mhm.
I think they, even though it might be a little bit of an early pick, I think they go with Loveland here. I don't think that they're a team that's going to take a quarterback in the first. I think we could maybe see them take one in the second.
Mhm.
I'm going to go with tight end here.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think they stick to tight end. Because like we've said, I think a lot of these guys are high on Colston Loveland, and I think that he could like you said, maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but if you're dire need of a tight end and you feel like he's your guy, I think they definitely would make it work there. At number 15, the Foul Clowns are on the clock. This is an interesting pick for me. I think they could go. I mean, they're another team, bunch of different directions, but for me, I think you go and get a Georgia guy, right? Jalen Walker's off the board here, and we've talked about Mykel Williams. There's a lot of talk that he might fall into this draft a little bit, but I think Mykel Williams is pretty well rounded, right? And I think you keep him in Georgia, big D lineman. I'm gonna go Mykel Williams for the Falcons here. It's really early for him, but I do think that that's kind of where their eyes are at. I think like Mike Green, there's some issues there personality wise. Donovan Ezeraku, I'm not a huge fan. I think he's gonna be a solid player. James Pierce Jr., a little bit smaller, things like that. Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart, not like that. They're kind of similar to Mykel Williams, but as far as performance, things like that. But I think Micah Williams stays in Georgia, goes to Atlanta here in my mock at least.
Yeah, I feel like this is where the start of the draft for him could be really at that 15
Mhm.
range. Like, anywhere from the teens into the early 20s, I feel like is a good spot for him. So I don't think it's too early.
Hammer, what do
Yeah,
you think?
yeah, I mean, just this morning, I forget who it was, but I saw a tweet saying these two guys that we just mocked, Loveland and Williams, can go a lot higher than people expect.
Mhm.
In the teens. Williams is a freak athlete, great size, played at Georgia. His 2023 tape is a little better than 24, but I think 24 was a little banged up. So, these pass rushers, I mean, I think Shamar and Michael go a lot earlier than people think ahead of a Green, a Pierce, this and that, because they just have the size and people like that better. They hold up better against the run, and he's
Mhm.
a great run defender. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I gotta agree with you there. At number 16, you got the Cardinals, Ham. This is a team that is pretty interesting as well. They could go a couple different directions. What are your thoughts for them?
yeah, I'm going between two players in my head right now. Greg Zabel comes to mind, a guy who can play kind of all five spots. I think of him more of a guard though. And then also Will Johnson. Will Johnson, right, was supposed to be a top 10 guy in this draft. Fell a
Mhm.
little bit because didn't have his best year, a little banged up, and didn't test at all. People were really questioning that long speed. But I'm gonna go with. I feel like Arizona always has like weird picks. They're just like, I don't know. So I'm gonna go with Gray Zabel, which I think is a little bit of a reach, but it's a versatile offensive lineman. So it's you can't
I
really go too wrong with that.
I don't mind that at all.
It's not the sexiest pick, but
I think Gray Zabel's a really solid player. I think he's going to be really solid in the NFL. Kind of like you can plug and play him wherever on the line. I think a lot of teams value that. So I think that's
yeah.
a
And I know
really
Gray
solid.
Zabel is like the favorite to go to Seattle. I think
Yeah,
Seattle's going to go in a different direction though. But yeah.
yeah, you got me stumped. I got to figure out who I'm going to pick for Seattle. But Ty on the clock for the Bengals here. This is a team that needs defense. Do you think they go defense? Or do you think they surprise people and go an offensive player? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one that we talked about too, where before we started recording, could be a trade back spot because they don't have a ton of picks and they have a ton of need on the
Mhm.
defensive side of the ball, deeper class too, so they could trade back. But with no trade, I think they do go D line. And Walter Nolan is the pick for me here. I think he's probably the best defensive line available, probably between him and Derek Harmon. But Nolan has that versatility where I think he could play a little bit of outside too. He played 5 tech, 3 tech, so. I think, with a team that has a lot of need on the defensive side of the ball, also don't know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson, getting a versatile defender on the defensive line would be a good get for them.
Yeah. So now, I mean, I had the Bengals going, like Campbell. I think Campbell is like more of like a versatile guy. But I think defensive side, you really can't go wrong. You're getting a defensive lineman, a linebacker, safety, whatever. They need anything. So
I
filling
I
them.
had I had Cincinnati taking a big swing at Mike Green.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
you pair him up with Trey Hendrickson, right? I think that's like
Yeah. Well,
if
I think
if
I
they
think
keep
I
Trey
think
Hendrickson, of
you
course. But
also look at that too, right? You might lose Trey Hendrickson, so it's
yeah,
like, let's go bring in a guy that was productive in college, just like our guy was productive leading the league in sacks for 2 years or something, you know what I mean? So, that was kinda my idea there. Let's take a shot in the dark, and if it pays off, you know.
no, I
It
definitely think
seems
that's
like they're
fair.
going
And
defense though, for sure, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
there's no
they have
way
to.
that these guys can go offense.
Yeah.
They have to. I mean, see, that's why now, like, I'm in a little bit
Yeah,
of a tough
I'll
spot
give
with
you
it.
an idea, Jenks.
What?
Just a pitch. Um, I like Matthew Golden here, and I say that
Wow.
because let's just give Sam Darnold weapons like he had in Minnesota. Let's
Mhm.
just do it. Give him a guy who could stretch the field. You're gonna have Cup and JSN inside. So that was kind of my thinking here. I think another
Yeah.
guy could be Shamar Stewart, but
I
I like
think they
Golden.
go with this situation. If we're doing no trades, I would see them possibly trading back here, and if the board fell like this. But in this situation, I really do. I think they go edge as well. I think that's kind of like the target. So you can kind of decide between a guy like Mike Green, um, Donovan Ezeraku, James Pierce. Like there's a bunch of options, and like you said, Hammer, they could go receiver as well. But between edge, kind of for the Seahawks mold. I'm trying to think of like
Shamar. They like big guys. I mean, you got score. I think Scoring's a reach. It's your pick.
I
It's
think
your pick.
you
What
could
am I
go.
doing?
No, no. I mean, I'm enjoying like the conversation. I think that's perfectly fair. But like, I think you go Mike. I think they could go Mike Green, right?
Definitely.
A guy that is like
Fits the mold.
yeah, fits the mold, productive, um, and I think he's a little bit like a nasty player. You know, I think like that could be a really solid pick for them there.
John
I
Schneider likes taking guys from smaller schools too. Like, I mean,
yeah.
especially at edge. You know, they took a kid that we played against in college. Uh,
Oh
again, he
yeah,
played.
from
Uh,
what was it? Valley. Lehigh Valley, not Lehigh Valley.
no, a random school. Anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
I forget who it was, but you know, they take a lot of these random smaller school guys that, especially at the edge. So I think
yeah,
it makes sense.
yeah, and I think they're like, I'm really bummed. I think Gray's Able is such a match made in heaven for them, but
Yeah.
if that happens, I mean, they got to figure it out. So we'll see what happens there. Now at number 20 or at number 19, sorry, jumped the gun a little bit there. Number 19, Hammer. The Buccaneers are on the clock. This is really a fun pick. I think they could go a lot of different directions on defense. I think that's
Yeah.
where the side of the ball they go. But who do you got them taking here?
Yeah, there's a couple good players on defense on the board, as you could see. I got him taking someone in the front seven. I got him going Jahad Campbell. Um,
I
Probably the
hate it.
best defensive player on the board, maybe. But he's a freak. He's a beast,
Yeah.
and yeah,
I mean, it's a
I think
home
it's a
run for
good
them.
match. Yeah,
I think they're kind of like in the sweet spot for what their
I
needs are.
you know I did a mock with trades, and I actually had them like jumping. I think trading with Indy and kind of jumping that those teams of Arizona, Atlanta, Cincinnati, those
Mm.
defensive teams, jumping them and taking Campbell there at 14. So I think you get him at 19. I think that's a steal.
It's a home run pick,
And I think if you draft him at 14, that's not bad at all either. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't think that's too high. I think that's just
no,
about right.
he's a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
and I mean, the guy's a stud. Like athletically, whatever, like he is insane. Ty, what are your thoughts on the pick? You know,
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean by jack of all trades because he did play some edge. I don't like him at edge. I don't think he
Mhm.
was a refined edge. I think he was just an athlete, but he's obviously a sick linebacker. He'll play really well next to Levante David and kind of be hopefully everything that they wish Devin White would have been. So I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
that pairing, and there's no better guy to learn from, right? Levante David kind of on his way out, you know, getting a
Exactly.
little bit older, but to learn from a guy like him who's been consistent for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team for a decade now. It's a match made in heaven.
And you got
Yeah,
to think too. I mean, the last time this Tampa Bay team was like, when they won the Super Bowl, when Devin White, when those two linebackers were playing at that level, they were like unstoppable. So,
Yeah.
I'd be bummed as a Saints fan if they picked him. Like that's a really good pick, and I think that's someone that like scares you as an opposing team. I mean, I had them taking Malachi Starks in my draft as the safety that can. It would be really solid for them, but I think either of those picks, like really solid home run picks for them. Ty on the clock with the Broncos at number 20. We've gotten some smoke regarding them possibly trading up in the first round for a receiver. What are your thoughts? Where do you want your team to go, or where do you think they do end up going?
Yeah, I mean, if the board falls like this, right, this is a really interesting spot because not only do you have Amari and Hampton, but you also have, the recent rumors that we could trade up for Matthew Golden, and Matthew Golden is sitting here. Obviously, there's been, a lot of Broncos fans that want a Luther Burden or a Mecca Ibuka. But if you're in this spot, right, probably comes down to Matthew Golden versus Marion Hampton. And it's tough because both positions are kind of loaded, going into that second round. You could get a wide receiver or a running back that's, starting capability. I'm kind of going to go back to what Jenks said, right? Like this running back class is a little bit deeper than all the other position groups. So I think even though I love Amari and Hampton, I'm going to pass on him and I'm going to go with Matthew Golden. I think that speed that he would bring to this team on the outside would be, it would really open up the offense. I think in the second round, they come back, they get a running back. And I think, Cortland Sutton, Matthew Golden on the outside, Marvin Mims on the inside. You got two really, really fast receivers. Marvin Mims around a 4.38, and then you get Golden with the 4.29. You got to help Bo Nix out, and a fast receiver that has a really good get off. Runs his routes really well. This isn't just a burner guy, right? This isn't a John Ross situation. So, I love the Matthew Golden pick, and I would not mind Denver trading up for him either if that's what happens, if this is not just smoke. So,
no. See, to me, as a Saints fan who was very, very high on drafting receivers and always wanted to draft a receiver, I would see Sean Payton and like the smoke that built around receivers and stuff like that, just for us to not take who I wanted them to take for Sean Payton. And he loved keeping a roster full of non-name talents at wide receiver, I should say. I mean, Ty, you've kind of witnessed that with Lil Jordan Humphrey, a guy that he truly believes in, and you're just like, you're not seeing it.
He's not coming back next year.
Yeah, he's finally gone. But like that's kind of what I mean is it could be smoke. And if you guys do take him, I think that would be awesome because you kind of see Sean Payton getting away from these days of not giving the quarterbacks talent at wide receiver.
He did take Brandon Cooks. He took Brandon Cooks that 1 year in the first round. So maybe this is the silver. But different situation too, right? You guys had Bruce who's established, and with a rookie quarterback, I think Sean understands that he's got to get him out.
Yeah.
What is taking a receiver in the first round? I don't even know what that is. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
To be fair, Hammer, you guys do take you guys do get yourself some good weapons.
Guys, yeah.
So
Jenks, let's hear this. What do you have them going? What do you have Denver getting right now? Do you have
Denver on my board? I picked Matthew Golden for him because I do think that the smoke could be real, and I think it's between him and Hampton, right? And personally, I think Hampton would be like an awesome fit for them, but I think you could go get Henderson or someone like that in the second round and kind of be just the same position. So I think if they want Golden, which it's seeming they do, I think that's kind of the way they go. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, they're a really fun pick as well. I think all three of our teams are pretty intriguing picks. They can kind of go a bunch of different directions. At number 21, the Steelers are on the clock, and I'm going to go with the guy that basically they kind of have to take, and it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. Right? I think you're kind of in a spot for the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers kind of holding you hostage a little bit. So you get to the draft, you have to take a quarterback here. I believe it's either going to be Dart or Sanders, whichever you really want to take, but you need a quarterback. You don't have one really on the roster except for Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, which Stephen A. Smith was having a stroke about. Like he was so upset about it today on First Take. But I think you really need a quarterback here. I think Shedeur would be a good match for them. More of a pocket passer kind of guy, fits a little bit in that scheme. So I think Shedeur Sanders would really good pick for the Steelers here. Then at 22,
do I get to do these next two picks? Because I want to play this scenario out. All right. If I may.
All right. Go ahead, Ham. Go ahead.
Okay, I think a lot of Packer fans, including me, would love Will Johnson, baby. But look who
Well, you
sits
gotta
right
get
in front of them.
Wait, so who are the Chargers? The
They're not gonna
Chargers
take
taking Will
corner.
Johnson?
Jenks, I'm setting up the scenario. I mean, can you let a kid just like?
Well, I don't know. I don't know where you were going. I don't know where you start. Okay,
All
go
right,
ahead.
we'll find out. All right, now I have to re-say. All right, a lot of Packer fans, including myself, would love Will Johnson. Drafts in Green Bay, this and that. Look who's picking right before us. You know, he's on the board. It's not going to happen. Will Johnson to the Chargers just like that. Um,
So
Will
you
Johnson to
think
the
Will
Chargers.
Johnson goes to the Chargers?
Yeah,
Wow. See,
I mean,
that's
it is a homer pick by
do.
Harbaugh,
I
right?
do.
I can see
it is. It is. I don't mind. I just like
Homer
I'm
pick and
surprised.
they fall right in the lap.
All right,
And
Ham.
now,
So who do the
now
Packers take?
Green Bay's on the board. And in my mock draft, I got him getting a receiver. But I think you guys purposely left this guy on the board, so I had to take him, so I couldn't take my receiver. So, Jags, go to the edge, please.
All right. All right. Who are you taking, bud?
The guy who had the 10.0 RAS score, Shamar Stewart. He's a Packer through and through. The body, the athleticism, the production in
I love
college.
Shepard. How do you miss him, bro?
Oh, God.
Did I miss him?
Yeah, he's the fourth
Oh,
guy.
I
But
see.
yeah, he's a Packer
Yeah.
through and through. If he's on the board, I don't think he's going to be on the board. I think he gets taken top 15, 16, 18.
It's realistic.
That's just me. But if he is, I think it's just a easy pick for Goot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think him or Tyle. What were your thoughts on the Chargers as the Broncos fan? Where do you think the Chargers go? And what are your thoughts on if they get Will Johnson? Go for
Yeah,
it.
so in mine, I had them taking Colson Loveland. So I guess the homer pick kind of does make sense again, right? Like even to Kenneth Grant, you know, if the board falls weird and there's not really receivers here or Loveland, you know, they have the need at defensive line. So, you know, Harbaugh wants his guys, and this is probably one of the last drafts that he can get his guys to. So I don't hate it. They did lose Asante Samuel. You know, they're always looking to improve that defense. So I could see it. I could also see them going with wide receiver the way that the board's fallen, right? Burden and Ibuka there. They're tough, right? Because, you know,
You could see him going Kenneth Grant too.
right. You could see
Yeah.
them going Kenneth Grant, and you could also see them just not realizing that they have a need at wide receiver. Like that's the
Mhm.
type of team the Chargers are. So I think the homer pick for them makes sense.
I don't mind it at all. And then
I mean, for me, I just think if he falls this far and he's on the board, I don't know how you pass him up if you're the Chargers, just because it's just like homer pick and the value.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I see. To me, I think they go. I would go Harmon. There, I had him go Walter Nolan in my mock with him off the board. I think Harmon was kind of like the next best thing. But yeah, I mean, you get
I
a
think they
Michigan
take
guy.
Grant over Harmon if they're in that situation because that's his
Okay.
guy.
That's not bad. Yeah, that's true. Michigan back to Harbaugh. So that is true as well. I think Harmon is kind of like the most versatile guy. That's kind of what I would do if I was the Chargers. But yeah, what they will do is something different. And with Harbaugh there, with the Michigan guys linked to him, I think that's definitely more realistic or a possibility. And then the Packers. Ty, do you think that's a good pick for the Packers there?
Yeah, I mean, and that I've mocked him, taking Shamar a couple times now. He makes sense for them, right? And I think, you know, being across from a guy like Rashawn Gary, like hopefully they can get, you know, more production out of Shamar in the NFL than he had in college, right? I think he had like 1.5 sacks a year or something like that. But you know, he's such a prototypical, you know, Packer type of guy, and he's got this crazy build too that, you know, just coach him up and he'll get there. And he gets there a lot. He's it's not like he's not getting off blocks. It's just for some
Yeah.
reason he doesn't get the damn sack. So
And
I like the pick.
I'll just
Hammer-
add this and then I'll shut up. I mean, like I wasn't as high as him when we did the edges when I looked at all of them as a group, and then you see this guy over and over in mock drafts to Green Bay, and you just go back and watch the tape and the energy he plays at, the relentlessness, it's just like it's a coach's dream. So it kind of boosted himself up on my boards. But
so you'd be happy with the pick, Ham. You'd be happy.
yeah,
with that.
I'd be happy.
Okay.
I'd want a receiver, but yeah, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, see, to me, like I think they could go corner. It's either corner or receiver, in my opinion, if the board fell this way. Like I think Shamar Stewart, like that's not a bad pick, but like I think corner. What do you think about Trey Amos, Hammer, as like a Packers pick,
Yeah,
as a
I think
guy that
it's
can kind of lock down? I think that's where I
I
went
think
in my
it's
mock, but
totally likely.
I
Yeah,
think
I
with the
yeah,
think
way the board is though, like Amos seems high here. Like there's a
it is
lot of
it is a little
talent
high.
on
It
I'll
would
tell you
be
what
it would
though,
be high.
Green Bay always drafts guys high. They always
Yeah,
reach.
It's fair.
yeah,
Like Jordan Morgan last year, dude, he was an early
yeah,
second rounder. They took him at 25 or 26. Lucas Van Ness at 13.
I mean, even Jordan
As
Love, right? Like guys were like
mhm,
very
yeah,
low on him. Obviously, he turned out well, but as a
yeah,
prospect,
yeah.
yeah.
And so moving on from the Packers, I mean, the Vikings coming up right after them, the division rival, the board kind of fell directly to their lap, right? I mean, Malachi Starks, I think, would be a match made in heaven here. Kind of more of, to me, I think they could possibly trade back in this situation. I think they maybe get a extra second round or something like that, and maybe go Xavier Watts. I like Xavier Watts for them a lot, but needing a safety here, I think it's either Malachi Starks or I think it would have to be Malachi Starks, but if they're sticking this spot, so I would go Starks here, maybe Emin Wari or someone like that. But I think Starks
Starks
is
makes
really
more
kind of
sense as the center field guy, right? Because they
yeah,
have
Yeah.
Harrison
I
Smith,
like
and then Warry's more of a box guy.
yeah.
I like Emma
I
Ward. I like the other guy better though.
Yeah,
you like Emin Wari
I
more?
think this South Carolina kid's got way better upside. Of course, he's just a freak,
Yeah,
athlete. So
I think that's fair. But I do think Starks really is like a good solid pick for them. The way he plays and everything like that. Ty, what are your thoughts?
yeah, like I said, right? Like Starks is the center field guy, and I think that's what Minnesota needs. I like him and Warry a lot. As I mentioned in the safeties talk, like I would have loved if we didn't get Hufanga, I would have loved Denver taking him. But he's more of a box guy. He really didn't play that much high safety
Mhm.
in college, so it would be a bit of an awkward fit with Harrison Smith. I think Harrison Smith could play free safety, but he's getting a little bit older now. He's
Yeah,
36 years old, so I think you need a guy who can play sideline to sideline, who's super duper athletic and like, you know, better in coverage. I think Starks is better in coverage than Emin Warrior is. So I don't disagree with your hand that Emin Warrior might be the better player, but Starks is the better fit for Minnesota.
Moving on from there, we got the Texans. I think this is a interesting pick too. They go a lot of different directions. I had them going Josh Simmons. If he fell to them, I think that would have been a match made in heaven. But with him going all the way up to the 49ers, I mean, this kind of changes the view there. What are your thoughts, Ty, on them?
Yeah, I mean, there's talks of them taking wide receiver. Their offensive line is so bad. Um, the wide receiver talk is a little weird to me. I know Tank Dell's out this year, but they got Christian Kirk. They had Nico Collins, but the way the offensive line was, they didn't even add guys this year that were that good either. They got rid of Tunsil, and they got Cam Robinson, Trent Brown. Not a lot of guys that are going to be a starter. I think this is another offensive line pick here. I got them taking Tyler Booker. I think they have a huge need at guard. They traded away Kenyon Green, even though he was terrible. I think he's Tyler Booker. This is the start of like where he could start
Yeah.
going right here, or like a Ravens, a Lions, like the late 20s. Like he's probably a second round pick, but this is where teams start to take like, okay, what do I need the most? So this is the best guard in the class. Zabel's the most like versatile offensive lineman, but Booker's the best guard. He's a huge body. I think he'll help be a road grader for Joe Mixon too. So I think offensive line's got to be the play here for the Texans.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Hammer, what are your thoughts?
I don't mind it at all. I'd say one name I'm just gonna throw out there, Donovan Jackson. Played
Not
guard,
bad.
tackle. People said he was the MVP of that Ohio State team that just won
Yeah.
the championship. I say watch out for him late first round. And like a team like the Texans and Lions, I could see it. So
Yeah, not a bad shout out there, Ham. At 26, Hammer, what are your thoughts there? I know we've kind of discussed it. They have a interesting. They could go quarterback or something like that and shock a lot of people. But where do you think they go? The Rams.
I think they go corner.
Mhm.
I might surprise people with who I'm gonna go here. I look at the corners, some good guys on the board. I'm looking at Maxwell Harrison. Jakes, me and Jakes talked about it the other day. You know what? This guy's gonna be a first round pick. When you run that time when you run that time at the combine, and you make you're a playmaker in the SEC, and now it came out that he's up to 194 pounds. I mean, that is attractive, and he's got a lot of upside. He could play a man or zone. I think he's a pick. I think he's a first round pick, and I think I could see with the Rams. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, see, with Amos still on the board, I think I would go them or would go him. But I mean, they could go any of those corners, and I think that's kind of like you're like, all right, there's reasonings there. Like you could kind of go wherever. But Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Harrison just feels like a Rams corner too, right? If you look
Yeah,
around that cornerback room, it is like a lot of
they're not
I
that
don't want to
big.
say smaller. Yeah, they're not the biggest
Yeah,
guys for
yeah, they're
sure.
not.
I had them going corner here too. I had Dart off my board. I had them taking Benjamin Morrison, who did his workout today and looked pretty good. Looked pretty, flexible. The hips were flipping well. But if the board were to fall here, I would not be surprised at all if we saw Dart. Or this is even a trade out spot for the Rams, right? To go back,
Yeah.
get some extra capital, maybe get back into that early part of the second round and take a tight end early or take another corner that falls, right? Because this is the end of the period too, where there's a lot of corners, Azariah Thomas, Benjamin Morris, and guys that could be available at the start of the second round. But I like the Harrison pick here.
Yeah. I mean, moving on to the Ravens, this kind of with both guards, with Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel off the board. I mean, I had them going Tyler Booker. I think that's kind of like a good fit for them if he fell to them. But without him, I think edge is kind of the direction they go. And you're looking at this board as Raku, Pierce Jr., Scorton. Um, I think it would be one of those three most realistically. I don't think Landon Jackson goes first before those guys. Between those three, I feel like Ezeraku or Scorton would be kind of more the Ravens guys. And just I think Ezeraku is kind of more. I think he has a little bit more potential to me than Scorton. So I would go Ezeraku here if I'm the Ravens. So I'll go Ezeraku here, but I do think Tyler Booker would be like the match made in heaven if he's there on the board. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I like James Pierce a lot better. I think, I have him higher than I think I had him early 20s or maybe even in the
Yeah,
late teens.
I do as well. Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about this type of guy that could fall, right? There's some of the issues with him. So I don't mind it. Ezeraku looked really good, and he's performed well in all the combine stuff and the pro days and Senior Bowl. So he's really risen up in this draft process. So I like it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's him or like I think Pierce just kind of like doesn't match the mold necessarily, but I like Pierce a lot more. Like on my board, I think Pierce is a lot higher. But
Yeah.
anyways, Hammer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love it. I had that in my mock. Azaraku to the Ravens. Yeah, for me, I think Pierce falls out of the first round. That's kind of I think he falls out of the first round.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. But I mean
just the size and the character. I actually have him going 32 to the Eagles in my mock draft because we weren't allowed to do trades. But if we're doing trades, I think Chiefs Eagles maybe trade out for teams to come up to get QBs. I think Pierce is like an early second round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I think the most interesting part here is kind of these last few picks. I feel like a few edges could go in this little range here with the Lions, Commanders, Eagles.
Everyone except for the
And
Chiefs.
yeah, I mean, everyone here could go edge, but Hammer. I mean, Lions are on the board, and they're a division rival. So I want to hear your thoughts on them. Where do you think the Lions go?
I think they go offensive defensive line. Three guys that I'm thinking about are Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, and Donovan Jackson. I think one of those three guys. I think that's a pick. Ooh, this is tough. It's Kenneth Grant or Donovan Jackson.
You think they keep him in Michigan?
I'm gonna say, yeah, man, you gotta stop Josh Jacobs. They're taking Kenneth Grant. You gotta try to stop that man.
I love it. I love that you brought that up. I think that is kind of like a guy that can really plug the run, stop it, stuff the run a lot.
Hey, now you're going against Ben Johnson too in that run game in Chicago. So go get
Yeah,
Kenneth
get your
Grant.
anchor. Get your anchor in the middle. Ty, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I probably would have gone James Pierce Jr. here. I think they need an edge alongside Aiden Hutchinson. He was really their only true pass rusher, but Kenneth Grant does bring that pass rush ability for them. You know, I feel like they're even a sleeper team for a wide receiver. They have them here for need. It just depends on how this board falls and if they just decide to pick best player available, right? Throw a Luther Burden or a Emeka Ibuka into that offense with Amonra and
Really
JMO.
good.
I mean, that's insane. So I think guard or defensive line is probably the first pick for them. But if a lot of these guys start to come off the board, receiver wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was kind of looking at Amika there, but I do like the pick him. Keeping the guy in Michigan, plugging the run in that division. Ty, on the clock, you got the commies here. Edge, a big need, edge. You got running back. You got a bunch of things they could go. But what do you think the Commanders end up going here?
Yeah, this one's tough for me, right? Because I think they could use a corner, and I like Benjamin Morrison as a fit here. But with the way the board's fallen, right, like James Pearson and Marion Hampton are the two guys I have my eyes on. This was a team that was rumored to be interested in a lot of the different edge rushers this offseason. Still could try to go after Trey Hendrickson. But I think the running back, Marion Hampton, is the pick here. I think, they have a huge need. But Brian Robinson didn't look great last year. Eckler was fine, but he's older. They need a true bell cow to go alongside Jane Daniels. They got him a receiver with Debo. So I think Hampton, if he's still on the board, is an immediate pick for them.
Yeah, I had him going James Pierce, but I think either way, you're kind of setting up yourself up for success. And I think behind that O line, Omarion Hampton could really, really dominate. So I don't mind that pick at all. Hammer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't mind it. In my mock, I had him going edge. I actually had him going Nick Scourton. I actually talked to Ned about it. Got my source on it. Discussing it. Let's do my mock. But yeah, I could definitely see Hampton going 29.
Yeah, so to me, I think if the board falls this way, I think the Bills got to jump on James Pierce Jr. and give yourselves a really solid edge rusher. To me, in my mock, the way I had it, I had a couple other edges go above this, and I ended up going with a corner for them. So it could be like Trey Amos. To me, it's between Trey Amos or James Pierce Jr., but I think James Pierce Jr. could really cause some havoc. And in their division, I think you gotta, Tua, right? Justin Fields now and Drake May. I think, you need a more mobile edge rusher for Drake May and Justin Fields. So I'm going to go James Pierce Jr. for them. What are your guys' thoughts there?
Yeah, I like it. They're a team that I also thought corner. Obviously, I love Benjamin Morrison. Again, another spot for him. They're going to go defense, though. So I like it.
Yeah, I think they 100%. On my mock, I had him going Azariah Thomas, which is high, but I could see that as a possible pick there. Hammer, do you have any major disagreements on that?
No, I like Trey Amos for them. I like Trey Amos.
I think that'd be a really solid pick too.
Yeah.
Now, the Chiefs and Eagles are kind of two places that, like you said earlier, Hammer could trade out. But what do you think the Chiefs do if they stick at 31?
How is Derek Carmen on the board? How is on the board? I don't think they go Derek Carmen, though. I don't.
Wow, look at this. PFF has Omar Norman Lott and Talik Williams.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Who's next? Ty, you next?
No, you're on the board. I got Philly the last
one. You're on the board, kid.
I know. I'm saying it's Ty next. He's after me.
Oh, yeah. Ty's next for the Eagles.
Ty, you want to promise to take Derek? I'm not going to take him.
I think
Derek Carmen to the Eagles makes too much sense, right? They end up with this
out there, but take the Chiefs pick first. Let me scout the board.
All right. I'm gonna go for the Chiefs after that Super Bowl, after the loss to Tooney. I'm going Donovan Jackson. I think this guy's gonna sneak into the first round, and it's gonna surprise some people, but it's not gonna surprise the Jenks Island listeners because I've been preaching this. I think dude, he's just versatile.
Over Josh Connerly?
Yeah. I don't like Connerly. I don't like Connerly. And a guy who could play guard and tackle is just it's so much more valuable. So I'm going Donovan Jackson.
Yeah, the Chiefs have so many holes on the offensive line.
So many. So
besides Creed and Trey, I mean, they don't. They could use another guard. That Caliendo kid was getting destroyed, and their tackles are bad too. So I think
look what happened when they put Tooney at tackle. He's too tiny. You know what I mean? So get a guy who's got experience playing both already. Yeah. So injuries are going to happen. Plug and play, and let's go.
Yeah,
I like it. Ty, on the clock. Last pick of the first round in the mock draft. Eagles are on the clock. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be the pick here, right? Derek Harmon. He makes a lot of sense. They lose Brendan Graham. They lose Milton Williams.
Crazy.
He's sitting there for them. They're just in a position to take best player available. If there's, they're probably a trade back spot there, and maybe Harmon falls to them in the early part of that second round. If they trade back with the Giants or something. But I think Harmon makes a lot of sense for them.
Yes, I mean, you look at the finished board here. I think this is a really solid mock without trades. I mean, each team getting their needs out of the way, but they're also all getting really good, talented players. So I think this is a really solid mock. If it happens this way, I think the teams that kind of want to trade back, possibly like you mentioned, I mean, maybe like the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Rams, and a couple other teams in there too. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think
I'll say this. I think the Dallas is a team that can trade back. I've heard they've been doing a lot of homework on drafting an interior offensive lineman. So that's a Gray Zabel, that's a Booker. I could see them trading back.
And a team that wants to jump, the Steelers for a quarterback, that could be a good spot for them to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? Is like right now you're kind of like no other teams outside of like the Steelers, the Browns, Giants, and Saints like need quarterbacks, but like you could see like a team like the Rams or a couple other teams like just trade up and get a guy in the future, and it would be pretty interesting. Like
trade up in the second round too, right? Like the Giants or stuff. Like it's not out of the picture to trade up that high. If you love Dart or Sanders and they're still there at 12, like you got to do what you got to do. And Steelers can't trade up really because they don't have a second round pick. So
Jalen Milrose going to the draft, right? Yeah. On day one. Do we think that it's possible that he gets taken before Jackson Dart? Do we think it's possible?
No, not before Dart. But I think there's a situation where like Milrose, the fourth or fifth quarterback taken. If teams really start to trade up and dominoes start to fall, 32. I mean, that's where the Ravens traded up and got Lamar Jackson. And teams are comparing Milroe because of his athletic ability. Lamar was a better passer coming out of college, but Milroe could be that fourth or fifth guy taken off the board because Tyler Shuck, there's been a lot of buzz around him going to the first. So I don't think I think he's going to end up being in the green room all night long, but you never know. He's a freak athlete, so
it's definitely possible. We'll see. I'll pull it up real quick. Hammer, you can talk. I'm going to pull up our drafts real quick, share them on the screen. You guys can pause the screen, whatever, to see the different drafts, but go ahead, Ham.
I was going to say in my mock with the trades, I had Cleveland trading the 31 with the Chiefs and getting Milroe.
Yours is this one. Is that yours? Or is it this one? This one, right?
That's Hammer. Yeah.
This is mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hammer's got a solid board here. Campbell, also like the Bucks. I mean, T-Mac falling 18.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. I mean,
I think Seattle's been a team that's had a lot of connections to Tet, getting that big body on the outside. Genty, I have him going to Jacksonville. There's been rumors. I think Jacksonville, young GM, dude wants to make a name for himself. I could see him going Genty at 5. Mm-hmm. Panthers, like we said, kind of just a weird pick. I don't really know what to do with them. Jalen Walker, there you go. I think Shamar Stewart can go early. San Fran, I like that. Pair that guy up to Nick Bosa, two freaks of nature. I think Dallas could like Golden better than Tet. That's very possible. What else? Any surprise? Luther Burden to the Broncos. Ty kind of talked about all year, not all year, but, during free agency, maybe getting a guy like Debo or Cup, like Gadget kind of slot guys. So he was Luther Burton. Maybe it's smoke that they want Golden. They really want Burden. Maybe, who knows? Here I got Green Bay going to Mecca. A lot of the pass rushers they like go early, Michael and Shamar, so they go Ibuka. They had a 2-day meeting, visit with Ibuka, so I think they're interested. Who knows? Could be smoke. Simmons to the Texans. I love that. Loveland to the Rams. That makes a lot of sense too if they don't go corner. Anything else that surprised me? No, that's really it.
I mean, we had Amika and Luther falling out of the first, right? In our mock. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a bold
Yeah,
take
it's
in
tough.
itself.
I mean, the guys from a lot of people talked about this, like 1 to 50. I mean, it's just starters, right? So it's like,
Yep.
anything could go.
Yeah.
It's like, what
Exactly.
do you need? And is receiver that big of a need for some of these teams?
And then Ty, here's your draft. Do you have anything you wanted to add about your picks or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just talked about Loveland earlier, right? I think he makes a lot of sense for the Chargers as a homer pick. They could use a tight end. And then Morrison, right? He had his workout today, looked pretty good. And I like. I don't know how much I like him to the Rams. I think this is a Rams trade back spot because a lot of the quarterbacks went off the board, and the linebackers, and it just they're kind of in a shitty spot there, so they could be in a trade back position. But yeah, I mean, quarterback here, like with the Saints taking a quarterback and the Steelers taking a quarterback, like that's that end of the round where the Giants or the Browns could trade back up in. What's up?
Hammer, why are you raising your hand, bud?
I just got a question, man. Kelvin Banks at 31?
Yeah, I mean, you're not a big fan of him, but I'm not really a big fan
I'm
of
not,
him.
but
I don't think the Chicago Bears end up taking offensive tackle. And when you look at some of the other teams' needs, like maybe Miami would take an offensive lineman, but I think they could probably get one later. And defensive back is a huge hole for them. I have Seattle taking Zabel. He's not really a tackle though. And maybe like the Rams would be a spot where a tackle could go, but I'm not that high on like some of these tackles going that early besides Simmons, Membu, and Campbell. So I could see him falling, and I think he'd be a good fit for KC.
yeah, it'd be
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean,
Yeah. I think if you're going for an interior offensive lineman, it's between Zabel and Banks. Who you going?
I'd say
Zabel. He's
Zabel.
proven that he can play interior. So
Yeah.
I would say Zabel, but I think
I'll take Booker over him too.
yeah, I think, but a lot of
Booker's
people
just
like
weird.
he's talked about so highly in the league for
Yeah.
I mean whatever
Hey,
reasons.
Green Bay fans love Banks. I'm the only one that's not. They love him.
Hammer's standing up for the team. I think Hammer, you're on the right path. But anyways, I mean, you look at mine. I mean, I had Jade Barron going to the Panthers here because he's like they're a team that kind of needs a DB that can do kind of a little bit of everything. I mean, like we said, they're a team that can kind of do whatever. Calvin Banks to the Bears, Derek Harmon to the Dolphins. I think that would be shocking, right? But I think that's kind of like a pick for them that would be a really good match. Colston Loveland to the Colts still. Let's see. I mean, I think Shedeur falls right. Say that again, Ty. Sorry.
Javon Ravel, a first round entrance.
Javon Ravel. I think that's the thing with the Rams here. I think the Rams and I think the Vikings trade back in this situation, and I think the Rams trade back as well. I think both those teams, like they're gonna get those positions, but I think if they get them in the spot they're at right now, I think it'll be a little bit of a reach. With Nick Emenwari and Siobhan Revel, respectively. And then I think the edge kind of at the end, you got Mike Green to the Lions. Like that would be a really, really good match across from Hutchinson. And then James Pierce Jr. in the Commander's uniform again. And then, like I already said, Azariah Thomas to the Bills, Kenneth Grant to the Chiefs. I think that would be a good spot for them. And Donovan Ezeraku to the Eagles. Hammer, you got some like a thinking face on. What do you think?
No, I couldn't find Will Johnson for a sec. I thought you had him sliding out of the first.
Yeah, no.
All these corners, like, wait, what's happening?
I do have Jalen Walker falling out of the first though, so that's.
I think I've heard a lot about Will Johnson going 11 to the San Fran. I just feel like that's like too soft of a pick for San Fran. Like I think they go O-line, D-line. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know.
Too soft though.
Weird.
I mean, I don't mind it.
Too soft. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They could go a lot of different places. But I mean,
Trenches.
this draft's gonna be a lot of fun. Going live on Thursday night with you guys is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna try to get guests on for the different teams, kind of give reactions to the picks. We'll be live at 7:30. Hammer, are you gonna be able to join at 7:30, or are you gonna join close to the draft? I don't remember what you said.
Probably a little later because I get out of work late.
Okay, so Henry will be joining a little bit later. Ty and I will be there at 7:30. Ned might be joining us early for that. We'll probably do like a mock draft, maybe answer some questions, things like that. But we're really excited. We're gonna try to make it a fun time for all of the listeners out there and watchers, and just kind of break down the draft, everything that's going on, any of the chaos. It's gonna be a really fun night. Does anyone have any of you guys got any like hot takes, anything to throw out, closing thoughts? What do you got?
Just hope Denver doesn't take Ted McMillan, man. I pray to God that they don't trade up.
Really? Oh, trade
Yeah.
up. What if they took him at 21?
Depends how the board is. I mean, like if we're desperate, I think we need a guy with more
For
speed.
20.
I think having him, he's just like another Cortland Sutton, and we have Devon Vele, who's like a Cortland Sutton also. I just don't want all these big possession receivers that can't break away from guys. So
That's fair.
yeah, I would hate it, honestly.
Hammer, what are your thoughts? What's like your like hate pick if the Packers go?
Hate
Like,
pick. You know what? I'm not a fan of an offensive lineman. I mean, you can never go wrong. I get it, but Green Bay's got one of the better offensive lines in the league. We got 6 starters who could play. We drafted a Jordan Morgan in the first round last year. I just adding someone in the first round. Then you got 7 guys. I just don't see like the true value in that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You can never hate it and go wrong because it's offensive line. You're protecting your $55 million quarterback, but I don't know. I
agree.
want a pass rusher. I want a receiver, corner. It would be awesome if they took a receiver first round in Green Bay, but being realistic, I think it's gonna be a corner or a pass rusher.
Yeah, to me, it's Kelvin Banks to the Saints at 9. I think that's just would be an atrocious pick. Like, yeah, like you said, like you're taking O-line, you're protecting your quarterback, whoever, maybe that's Dart. If you trade back up, whatever, Rattler, whoever it is going to be, I just think Kelvin Banks at 9 would be such a reach that I'd be really upset. Anyways, I'll end this early. I mean, we were hour into recording and it's 11:30 at night. Ty's got work. Hammer's way past your bedtime. I'll let you guys go. We're excited for the NFL draft live stream Thursday night, 7:30. Make sure to tune in. You guys know where to check us out on social media at Jenks Island and wherever you get your podcast at Jenks Island as well. We will see you guys on draft night.